Welcome, basketball enthusiasts, to a monumental edition of our deep dive into the ever-evolving, relentlessly compelling world of international hoops. If you have been paying even the slightest bit of attention to the global hardwood over the past few years, you understand that we are no longer living in an era defined by a single, untouchable basketball superpower. We have crossed the threshold into a new epoch, a magnificent and chaotic era of global parity where the margins between the traditional titans of the sport and the hungry, rising underdogs have not just shrunk, they have practically evaporated. We are witnessing a revolution broadcast in real time, across time zones, continents, and cultures. The game invented by Dr. James Naismith with a peach basket in Springfield, Massachusetts, has transcended its origins to become the ultimate global language, a kinetic dialogue of crossovers, step-backs, and rim-rattling dunks that resonates from the bustling, neon-soaked streets of Manila to the resilient, hope-filled courts of Juba and the pristine high-tech arenas of Japan. Today, we are going to unpack three massive, interconnected storylines that perfectly encapsulate this shifting landscape. We are looking at the relentless pursuit of greatness against physical and statistical odds. We are looking at nations forging their identities through the bounce of a leather ball. We are looking at the return of legends and the awakening of giants. First, we will examine the latest developments surrounding the Philippines' towering beacon of hope, Kai Sotto, as he navigates the grueling preseason and regular season battles in the fiercely competitive Japan B.League with the Koshigaya Alphas. We will dissect what his numbers, his physical conditioning, and his evolving skill set mean not just for his professional career, but for the future architecture of Gilas Pilipinas. Secondly, we will journey to the African continent to analyze the absolute phenomenon that is the South Sudan men's national basketball team. We will explore how the bright stars have utterly shattered expectations, completely disregarding their tournament seeding and FIBA rankings to dispatch established powerhouses. They are the ultimate definition of a team that has defied its seed, playing with a level of heart, athleticism, and tactical brilliance that has forced the entire basketball world to stand up and take notice. And finally, we will break down the massive news that has sent shockwaves of pure joy through the Philippine archipelago. The return of the resident superhero, the naturalized legend himself, Brownlee. We will look at what his resurgence means for his mother club, Barangay Ginebra, his impact on the future iterations of Gilas Pilipinas, and how his enduring legacy continues to shape the modern history of Asian basketball. But before we plunge into the statistical minutiae, the tactical breakdowns, and the deep biographical context of these three pillars of our broadcast today, we must first set the stage. We must understand the gravity of this moment in basketball history. For decades, the narrative of international basketball was largely a monotonous one. The United States would assemble a roster of NBA superstars, fly to whatever corner of the globe was hosting the FIBA World Cup or the Olympic Games, and systematically dismantle the competition. The 1992 Dream Team in Barcelona was the zenith of this phenomenon, a collection of basketball deities who didn't just beat their opponents, they overwhelmed them, securing autographs and photographs from the very players they were blowing out by 40 points. But that cultural export, that breathtaking display of dominance, carried within it the seeds of its own eventual challenge. By showing the world the absolute pinnacle of the sport, they inspired a generation of international athletes to close the gap. We saw the first tremors of this shift in the early 2000s, culminating in the seismic shock of the 2004 Athens Olympics when the United States failed to win gold, humbled by the tactical brilliance and fundamental purity of international squads like Argentina and Puerto Rico. That was the wake-up call. The world had caught up. And since then, the acceleration of global basketball talent has been nothing short of exponential. We are now in a reality where the reigning NBA most valuable players hail from Serbia, Greece, and Cameroon. We are in a reality where European leagues, the Australian NBL, and the Asian leagues are not just secondary options, but premier destinations producing elite, NBA-ready talent. The scouting networks have expanded, blanketing the globe, searching for the next generational unicorn in places that, 20 years ago, would never have seen a professional basketball scout. This globalization has completely rewritten the rulebook of international tournaments. The FIBA World Cup and the Olympic Games are no longer coronations. They are absolute bloodbaths. Every single possession is a war. The defensive schemes have grown incredibly sophisticated, heavily reliant on zone coverages, aggressive pick-and-roll traps, and a level of physicality that often leaves NBA stars frustrated and bewildered. The FIBA game is a different beast entirely. It is a game of spaces, of ball movement, of punishing the slightest lapse in defensive rotation. It is a game where a cohesive unit of players who have spent years bleeding and sweating together in national team training camps can topple a hastily assembled squad of multimillionaire superstars. This brings us perfectly to the concept of the underdog in modern basketball, a concept that is being aggressively redefined by teams like South Sudan and players like Kai Sotto. When we talk about South Sudan, we are talking about a nation that gained its independence only in 2011, a nation that has endured unimaginable hardship, political instability, and conflict. Yet, from this crucible of adversity, under the visionary leadership of former NBA All-Star Luol Deng, they have constructed a basketball program that is a masterclass in resilience, scouting, and tactical execution. When they step onto the floor, they are not just playing a game, they are serving as ambassadors for a nation, demanding respect on the global stage. When they dispatch teams ranked significantly higher than them, when they make a mockery of their tournament seeding, they are sending a clear, unequivocal message: the old hierarchy is dead. Talent is ubiquitous, and when coupled with unyielding determination and elite coaching, it can overcome any historical disadvantage. Similarly, the journey of Kai Sotto represents a different kind of defiance. For generations, the Philippines, a country with an unquenchable, almost religious fervor for basketball, has been searching for its legitimate homegrown giant, a player with the sheer physical dimensions and the requisite skill set to compete at the absolute highest levels of the sport. The Filipino basketball DNA is built on speed, heart, and perimeter shooting, often compensating for a lack of elite height. Kai Sotto is the manifestation of a national dream. Standing at 7'3", he possesses the physical tools that cannot be taught. But his journey has not been a linear path to superstardom. It has been a grueling odyssey of development, of moving across continents, from the NBA G-League Ignite program to the rugged, physical battles of the Australian NBL, and now to the highly disciplined, fiercely competitive landscape of the Japan B.League. He carries the weight of 100 million expectations on his broad shoulders. Every single game he plays, every rebound he grabs, every shot he contests is microanalyzed by an entire nation. His current stint with the Koshigaya Alphas is a critical crucible. It is here, in the daily grind of professional basketball, against seasoned veterans and imported big men, that he must refine his body, sharpen his basketball IQ, and prove that he is not just a towering prospect, but a dominant, highly effective professional center capable of anchoring a championship-caliber team. And then we have Justin Brownlee. To understand Justin Brownlee's impact, you have to understand the unique cultural phenomenon of the import in Philippine basketball. In the Philippine Basketball Association, the PBA, teams are allowed to bring in foreign reinforcements, usually Americans, to bolster their rosters. These players are often tasked with carrying immense offensive loads, serving as the primary scorers, rebounders, and defensive anchors. Over the decades, many great imports have graced the Philippine hardwood, but very few have transcended the role of a hired gun to become adopted sons of the nation. Justin Brownlee is in that ultra-rare, rarefied air. He is not just an import, he is Justin Noypi. He is a player who completely immerses himself in the culture, who plays with an unselfishness and a joy that endears him to the fiercely loyal fanbase of Barangay Ginebra, the most popular team in the country. But his legacy goes far beyond the PBA championships and the clutch, game-winning shots. By accepting naturalization, he committed himself to the Philippine national team, Gilas Pilipinas. He became the stabilizing force, the veteran leader, the player who, when the offensive sets broke down against elite international competition, could simply take the ball and create a miracle. His absence was deeply felt, and his return to the court is a massive, emotional boost not just for his team, but for the entire basketball-loving populace of the Philippines. So, buckle up. Settle in. Over the course of this extensive analysis, we are going to leave no stone unturned. We will break down the analytics, we will dive into the history, and we will explore the profound human stories that beat at the heart of these three captivating narratives. We will look at how Kai Sotto is battling through adversity in Japan, how South Sudan is rewriting the geopolitical map of basketball, and how Justin Brownlee's return alters the entire trajectory of Philippine basketball. This is the story of the modern game. This is the story of giants awakening, of nations rising, and of legends returning to claim their thrones. Let us dive deep into the hardwood. Let us begin our deep dive in the land of the rising sun, focusing our analytical lens on the Koshigaya Alphas of the Japan B.League, and more specifically, their towering 24-year-old center, Kai Sotto. To truly appreciate what Kai Sotto is doing right now, we have to look past the superficial highlights and dig deep into the grueling reality of his current situation. We are looking at a player who is operating in the crucible of immense pressure, battling not just opposing big men, but the lingering shadows of physical recovery and the relentless weight of national expectation. First, let us look at the raw data. As of the recent stretches of the 2025 to 2026 B.League season, Sotto has been putting up incredibly solid numbers. We are talking about averages hovering around 13.1 points, over 9 rebounds, and significant contributions in block shots, playing close to 28 minutes a night. These are not empty statistics. These are hard-earned numbers in a league that has quietly become one of the premier domestic competitions in the world. The Japan B.League is incredibly well-funded, tactically rigorous, and relies heavily on high-level imported talent, particularly in the front court. Every single night, Kai Sotto is not going up against undersized local centers. He is battling massive, experienced American and European big men who have played in the NBA, the EuroLeague, and the G-League. Players like Sekou Doumbouya, Anthony Clemens, and Jarrell Martin are the standard of competition here. When you watch the tape of Sotto's recent games, particularly the stretches where Koshigaya was trying to snap a debilitating losing streak, you see a maturation in his game that is crucial for his long-term development. In a recent crucial matchup against the Osaka Evesa, Sotto was absolutely instrumental in securing an 84-77 victory that ended a 6-game slide for his team. He posted a near double-double with 12 points and 8 rebounds. But it was the game prior to that, a narrow loss, where he truly showcased his offensive ceiling, dropping 21 points on a highly efficient 10 of 14 shooting from the field, alongside 9 rebounds. What does this tell us? It tells us that his touch around the rim is elite. At 7'3", he has an incredibly soft touch. He is not just a robotic big man who relies solely on putbacks and dunks. He has a refined jump hook, he can hit the mid-range jumper when the defense sags off him, and most importantly, he is learning how to establish deep post position against incredibly physical defenders. However, the statistical output only tells half the story. The context of Sotto's 2025 to 2026 campaign is heavily defined by his physical health. Remember, this is a young man who suffered a torn anterior cruciate ligament, an ACL tear, in his left knee back in January 2025. An ACL tear is one of the most devastating injuries in professional sports, particularly for a player of his immense size. The biomechanics of a 7'3" frame put an incredible amount of stress on the knee joints. The rehabilitation process is not just about healing the ligament, it is about rebuilding the entire muscular structure around the knee, regaining proprioception, and, perhaps most dauntingly, overcoming the psychological hurdle of trusting that knee again when planting, pivoting, and exploding for a rebound in a crowded paint. The fact that Sotto has returned to the floor and is playing substantial minutes, sometimes logging upwards of 30 minutes a game in back-to-back scenarios, is a massive testament to his work ethic, his medical team, and his sheer determination. But you can still see the ghosts of the injury in his movement patterns. He is pacing himself. He is playing smarter, not necessarily harder in every single possession. He is learning the nuances of verticality, relying on his massive wingspan to alter shots rather than constantly jumping out of position and risking awkward landings. This is a crucial evolution. The great defensive big men in the history of the game, players like Marc Gasol or Tim Duncan in his later years, did not rely on elite leaping ability. They relied on anticipation, positioning, and knowing exactly where to be half a second before the offensive player got there. Sotto is currently receiving a masterclass in this style of play. But we must also address the areas of required growth. For Kai Sotto to take the next leap, whether that leap is securing a dominant role on a championship-contending B.League team, making another push for an NBA roster spot, or becoming the undisputed, unstoppable focal point of the Philippine national team, he must continue to develop his physical strength and his passing out of double teams. In the B.League, when he gets the ball on the block, the double team comes fast and it comes hard. Teams are scouting him, they know he prefers his left hand, they know he wants to turn over his right shoulder. They dig down from the perimeter, swatting at the ball. Sotto must develop the elite court vision to punishing these rotations. He needs to consistently find the open shooter when the defense collapses. If he can become a hub of offensive creation, a player who not only scores efficiently but makes everyone around him better with his passing, he becomes truly unguardable. Furthermore, we must contextualize Sotto's B.League journey within the broader framework of Gilas Pilipinas. The Philippine national team is currently undergoing a massive structural shift in its frontcourt. For over a decade, the paint was patrolled by the legendary Japeth Aguilar, a hyper-athletic marvel who served as the defensive backbone of the team. But Aguilar is stepping away, transitioning into the twilight of his international career. The baton is firmly being passed to a new generation, a highly promising troika of young, incredibly tall, and versatile big men: Kai Sotto, A.J. Edu, and Quinton Milora-Brown. Head coach Tim Cohn has spoken openly about the potential of this trio. When you look at the modern FIBA game, having a rotation of big men who can protect the rim, switch onto smaller guards in pick-and-roll situations, and stretch the floor offensively is the ultimate luxury. Sotto, standing at 7 feet 3 inches, provides the elite rim protection and interior scoring. A.J. Edu, a 6 feet 10 inches defensive menace, brings an incredible motor, lateral quickness, and a ferocity on the glass that perfectly complements Sotto's skill set. And Milora-Brown brings a rugged, physical, blue-collar approach that adds a layer of toughness to the front line. The sheer potential of these three playing together, developing synergy, and learning how to cover for each other's weaknesses is tantalizing for Filipino basketball fans. But potential is just unrealized reality. Sotto needs to be the anchor of that group. His experiences in Japan, battling against high-level imports every night, are exactly the repetitions he needs to lead Gilas Pilipinas into the brutal battles of the upcoming FIBA Asia Cup and the crucial World Cup qualifiers. The path forward for Kai Sotto is not paved with guaranteed success. The B.League is unforgiving. Opposing coaches will continue to test his repaired knee. They will continue to crowd his space, hit him on every box out, and try to frustrate him. But every game he plays, every double-double he posts, and every time he successfully navigates a grueling back-to-back schedule, he is proving his resilience. He is transitioning from the unicorn prospect to the professional anchor. And for a basketball-crazed nation watching his every move, that transformation is the most thrilling storyline of all. Now, we shift our focus from the individual journey of Kai Sotto to the collective, awe-inspiring phenomenon of a nation. We travel from the highly structured arenas of Japan to the deeply complex, rapidly evolving landscape of African basketball to examine a team that has not just captured the imagination of the world, but has fundamentally altered the geopolitical hierarchy of the sport. The South Sudan men's national basketball team, affectionately and appropriately known as the Bright Stars. When you see the phrase "seed dispatched" or "defying the seeding" associated with South Sudan, it is not hyperbole. It is a factual recounting of what this program has achieved over the past 4 years. To understand the magnitude of their accomplishments, you must first understand the baseline from which they started. South Sudan is the world's youngest nation, gaining independence in 2011 after decades of brutal, devastating civil war. The infrastructure for sports, let alone a specialized sport like basketball, was virtually non-existent. There were no gleaming indoor arenas, no sophisticated grassroots development programs, no state-funded academies. The foundation of this team was not built on concrete and hardwood. It was built on displacement, on the massive South Sudanese diaspora spread across Australia, the United States, and Canada, and on the unbreakable will of a few visionary individuals. The chief architect of this miracle is Luol Deng, the former two-time NBA All-Star, a man who spent a grueling 15-year career battling in the trenches for the Chicago Bulls, the Miami Heat, and the Los Angeles Lakers, took upon his shoulders the monumental task of building a national basketball federation from absolute scratch. He didn't just lend his name to the project. He poured his soul, his network, and his personal finances into it. He assumed the presidency of the South Sudan Basketball Federation in 2019, and his vision was clear: to use basketball as a unifying force for a fractured nation and to showcase the incredible untapped athletic potential of the South Sudanese people to the world. Deng understood that he couldn't build this the traditional way. He couldn't wait 20 years for a grassroots program to yield results. He had to assemble a mercenary squad of patriots. He scoured the globe, finding players of South Sudanese descent who were playing in the NBA G-League, in Europe, in Australia's NBL, and in various collegiate programs. He brought in Royal Ivey, a respected NBA assistant coach with a reputation for intense defensive schemes and player development, to mold this disparate group of athletes into a cohesive tactical unit. And then, the ascent began. It was an ascent that entirely disregarded FIBA rankings and historical precedent. When they entered the African qualifiers for the 2023 FIBA World Cup, they were viewed as a curiosity, a feel-good story. Nobody expected them to dominate. But dominate they did. They tore through the African qualification windows with a startling ferocity, finishing with an incredible 11-1 record. They didn't just beat teams, they outran them, out-jumped them, and out-executed them. They secured their first-ever World Cup berth, an achievement that sent millions of people in Juba and across the diaspora into rapturous celebration. But they were not satisfied with simply arriving at the dance. At the 2023 FIBA World Cup in Manila, they proved they belonged on the world stage. They played with a breathtaking pace, utilizing their incredible length and athleticism to disrupt passing lanes and generate fast-break opportunities. They finished as the highest-ranked African team in the tournament, automatically qualifying them for the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. Let that sink in. A nation that had existed for barely over a decade had qualified for the Olympics in one of the most competitive team sports on the planet. Their performance leading up to and during the Paris Olympics cemented their status as the ultimate seed defiers. We all remember the preparation game in London against the United States, the undisputed kings of the sport. The U.S. team, loaded with future Hall of Famers, expected a walkover. Instead, they walked into a buzzsaw. South Sudan, completely unbothered by the names on the back of the U.S. jerseys, played a near-flawless game of basketball. They shot the lights out from the perimeter, they protected the rim with terrifying verticality, and they pushed the pace relentlessly. It took a heroic last-second effort by LeBron James to save the United States from what would have been the most shocking upset in the history of international basketball. Even though they lost by 1 point, the message echoed across the globe: South Sudan is not here to participate, they are here to conquer. Now, as we look at their status in 2026, navigating the qualifiers for the 2027 FIBA World Cup and the AfroBasket tournaments, the narrative has shifted. They are no longer the underdogs. They are the hunted. They are the target. Every other team in Africa, traditional powers like Angola, Senegal, and Egypt, is designing specific game plans to stop the bright stars. This is a completely different kind of pressure. It is the pressure of expectation. When you look at their current roster profile, you see why they are so formidable. They have built a team constructed perfectly for the modern international game. They have rim protection in players like Joe Luolacule and Kour Quath. They have versatile, switchable wings like Nuni Omat and Wanyen Gabriel, who can guard multiple positions and stretch the floor with their shooting. And they have dynamic guard play with players like Carlick Jones, who was an absolute revelation during their World Cup run. They play a style of basketball that is deeply uncomfortable to play against. It is aggressive, it is long, and it is relentless. But the true power of the South Sudan basketball team lies not in their pick-and-roll defense or their three-point shooting percentages. It lies in what they represent. In a world often defined by division and conflict, these young men put on a jersey that says, South Sudan, and instantly become symbols of unity and hope for millions of people. When they take the court, they carry the trauma of a war-torn past and the boundless optimism of a peaceful future. They play with a joy and a desperation that cannot be quantified by analytics. The fact that they continue to defy their seeding, the fact that they continue to dismantle teams with vastly superior resources and historical pedigree, is a testament to the raw power of human spirit combined with elite athletic talent. They have forced the basketball establishment to rewrite the rules of engagement. You cannot look at a FIBA ranking anymore and assume you know the outcome of a game, not when the bright stars are on the floor. They have proven that talent is everywhere, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for a visionary like Luol Deng to organize it, and waiting for a moment to shock the world. The South Sudanese basketball phenomenon is not a fleeting Cinderella story. It is a permanent, disruptive force in the global game, and their journey is far from over. We move now from the macro-level geopolitical shifts of international basketball to a story that is deeply, intensely personal. We return to the Philippines, to a basketball culture that thrives on passion, loyalty, and the mythos of the hero. And in the modern era of Philippine basketball, there is no hero more beloved, more respected, and more heavily relied upon than Justin Brownlee. The headline is simple, but the implications are massive. Justin Brownlee is back. To say Brownlee is back requires us to understand where he has been and what he has endured. Brownlee's career trajectory is not the typical story of an NBA prospect. It is a story of grinding through international leagues, finding a home, and becoming a legend through sheer force of will, unselfishness, and an uncanny ability to deliver when the pressure is at its absolute highest. 4 years, he has been the driving force behind the Barangay Ginebra San Miguel franchise in the PBA, leading them to numerous championships and earning multiple Best Import awards. But his elevation to national icon status occurred when he became a naturalized citizen, donning the Gilas Pilipinas jersey. His magnum opus, The moment that forever cemented his legacy in Philippine sports history was the 2023 Asian Games in Hangzhou, China. The Philippines had not won an Asian Games basketball gold medal in 61 years. The team was facing incredible adversity, going up against the host nation, China, in a hostile environment, trailing by a significant margin in the final moments of the semi-final game. And then, Justin Brownlee happened. He orchestrated one of the most breathtaking, improbable comebacks in international basketball history, hitting back-to-back impossibly difficult three-pointers to rip the victory away from the Chinese team, silencing the arena and sending the Philippines into the gold medal match, which they eventually won. He became immortal in that moment. He wasn't just a basketball player. He was the embodiment of the Filipino fighting spirit, the puso that the national team preaches. But the heights of Hangzhou were followed by a valley. A suspension related to a prohibited substance, a medication he had taken for a legitimate medical issue, but one that fell afoul of strict anti-doping regulations, forced him away from the game he loved. It was a devastating blow for Brownlee, for Ginebra, and for Gilas. The naturalized spot is the most critical position on a national team roster. It is the ultimate difference-maker. Without Brownlee, the Philippines had to scramble, searching for replacements, trying to maintain the momentum they had built. So, when we say, Justin Brownlee is back in the context of May 2026, we are talking about a restoration of order. We are talking about the return of the engine that drives the most popular team in the country and the safety valve for the national squad. Let's look at his immediate impact on the ground in the PBA. He returns to a Barangay Ginebra team that is always under immense pressure to win championships. The PBA is a brutal, physical league, and the Commissioner's Cup, which features towering imports, is a massive test of endurance and skill. Brownlee, even as he navigates the later stages of his athletic prime, possesses a basketball IQ that is simply off the charts. He may not have the explosive first step he had 5 years ago, but he compensates for it with an absolute mastery of angles, pacing, and misdirection. He knows exactly when to attack, when to defer to his teammates, and when to take over a game. His return immediately elevates everyone around him. In a recent crucial game, the veteran Japath Aguilar, who himself had just returned from a scary lung-related condition following a bad fall, spoke about the comfort level of having Brownlee on the floor. Coach Tim Cohn, the legendary tactician who has engineered Ginebra's success and who currently helms the Gilas program, has repeatedly stated a simple truth. Justin Brownlee makes his teammates better. He is a willing passer, he does the dirty work on the glass, and his defensive anticipation is elite. He doesn't play like a hired gun looking for statistics. He plays like a foundational piece of the franchise. But the broader, perhaps more significant implication of Brownlee's return lies with Gilas Pilipinas. As the national team gears up for the massive challenges ahead, the FIBA Asia Cup and the crucial windows for the 2027 World Cup qualifiers, the presence of Brownlee is a strategic game-changer. Coach Tim Cohn is building a program based on continuity, chemistry, and high basketball IQ. He does not want a rotating cast of characters. He wants a cohesive unit that knows his intricate triangle-based offensive systems and his demanding defensive principles. Brownlee is the master key to that system. He knows exactly what Cohn wants before Cohn even calls the play. Furthermore, the prospect of pairing Brownlee with other immense talents is tantalizing. There is significant chatter and excitement about the potential pairing of Brownlee with another dynamic forward, Benny Boatwright, who is currently undergoing the naturalization process. Boatwright is a massive, sharp-shooting big man who can stretch the floor from 30 feet out. Imagine a frontcourt featuring the towering presence of Kai Sotto or A.J. Edu in the paint, the unlimited range of Boatwright on the perimeter, and the absolute playmaking mastery and clutch shot-making of Justin Brownlee orchestrating the entire symphony. It is a nightmare scenario for opposing defenses. It creates a level of versatility and offensive firepower that the Philippines has rarely possessed. But beyond the XS and OS, Brownlee's return provides something immeasurable: psychological security. For the Filipino fans, seeing Brownlee on the court is like seeing a trusted general return to the battlefield. It instills a belief that no matter how dire the situation, no matter how large the deficit, as long as Justin Brownlee has the ball in his hands with the clock winding down, a miracle is not just possible, it is probable. His journey back to the Hardwood is a testament to his resilience. He served his time, he stayed in shape, and he waited for his moment to return to the country that has embraced him as one of their own. At 38 years old, he is defying the aging curve, relying on wisdom, elite skill, and an undeniable love for the game. He is not just playing out the string. He is actively chasing more championships, more international glory, and looking to further cement a legacy that is already untouchable. Justin Brownlee is not just back. He is ready to remind the world exactly why he is considered the greatest import in Philippine basketball history. As we draw this extensive, deep-dive analysis to a close, we must step back and look at the beautiful, intricate tapestry that these three stories weave together. We are not just talking about basketball. We are talking about the relentless human drive to overcome obstacles, to shatter expectations, and to forge greatness in the crucible of competition. In Kai Sotto, we see the agonizing, glorious process of a massive prospect transforming into a reliable professional. We see the heavy burden of a nation's dreams being carried on the shoulders of a young man battling back from injury in a foreign land. His daily grind in the Japan B.League is not glamorous. It is a brutal education in the physical realities of the sport. But every minute he logs, every shot he blocks, is a step towards realizing a potential that could alter the trajectory of Asian basketball for the next decade. In the South Sudan Bright Stars, we witness the absolute power of collective will. They have taken the concept of the underdog and weaponized it. They have proven that heart, athleticism, and brilliant coaching can neutralize decades of institutional disadvantage. When they defy their seeding, they are not just winning basketball games. They are demanding that the world acknowledge the strength, the resilience, and the immense talent of the South Sudanese people. They are a disruptive force of nature in the FIBA landscape, and they are not going anywhere. And in Justin Brownlee, we find the enduring magic of the seasoned veteran. We see a player who has transcended his nationality to become a cultural icon, a player whose very presence on the court provides a sense of profound security to millions of fans. His return is a reminder that basketball is not just about raw athleticism. It is about intelligence, timing, and an unshakable belief in the clutch moment. The game of basketball has never been healthier, never been more unpredictable, and never been more deeply interconnected. A block in Japan echoes in Manila. A fast-break dunk in Africa sends shockwaves through the FIBA rankings in Europe. The borders have been erased. The old kings are being challenged by hungry, fearless challengers from every corner of the globe. Thank you for joining us on this exhaustive journey across the international hardwood. We have broken down the stats, analyzed the tactics, and explored the profound human elements that make this sport so universally captivating. The season is long, the qualifiers are brutal, and the margins for error are razor-thin. We will be here, analyzing every crossover, every upset, and every buzzer-beater. Until next time, keep your eyes on the court, because the next great basketball revolution could be happening right in front of you. Stay engaged, stay passionate, and we will see you for the next deep dive.